bit lighter foundation to soften the punch of everything. When the door opened, I saw a woman who resembled my sister but was more unhappy, pale and emaciated. My heart broke, and I assume hers did as well, for as soon as she spotted us she cried out, "Dios mío, what are you doing to our bloodline?" My partner immediately clasped my hand as if to say, "It's okay. We've got this." Meanwhile, tears streamed down my cheeks. "My love, what have you done to yourself?" my mother cried, attempting to untie my slick-back hairdo and fix it with her fingers. And that's when she noticed Carlos, her mouth extended so wide that I feared her jaw was going to shatter in half. "Ah, you almost had me believing that this monkey was actually your boyfriend. But I understand. You're young, just messing around." She then chuckled to herself, as if it were the most amusing thing in the world. My father then took my hand and led me inside, instantly handing my sister the skin-whitening cream to apply to my face. But it wasn't the same one I used as a child. No, this one hurts. "Stop! Get away from me!" I cried, tears spilling down my cheeks. Within seconds, blisters sprang on my face, and I began peeling all over. As I yelled, Carlos phoned the hospital. I assumed that by this stage, my folks would realize they were being morons. But no. My father wrestled with Carlos to get the phone from him. Pain is beauty. Arita will be beautiful. Meanwhile, my entire face felt like it had been dipped in hot sauce 100 times. Fortunately, they did arrive, and by the time I was seen by nurses, my brows had been burned off. When I awoke the next morning from the skin grafting process, I found my lover caressing my hand and calling me lovely, until I checked my phone. I instantly discovered that I had received dozens of texts and missed calls. The first voicemail was hostile, telling me I had disappointed the family. The second one was threatening. By the 10th, my sister begged me not to file charges. "There are our parents," she mentioned in the message. "They just want what's best for us. Please come home and we can fix this." I couldn't believe she was still protecting them despite everything. Her voice sounded empty and resigned, as if she'd given up fighting years ago. Carlos sat with me as I listened to the messages, his expression becoming increasingly anxious with each one. "Lily," he said gently, "this isn't normal. What they did to you is abuse. It's always been abused." He gently grasped my hand, taking care not to dislodge the IV line. I knew he was correct, but hearing him say it aloud made something snap within me. I've spent years attempting to earn love that should have been unconditional. I've been allowing them to physically and emotionally harm me because I believed that was what family meant. I'd normalized their behavior, excused their nastiness, and blamed myself for failing to meet their expectations. The hospital social worker arrived later that day. She inquired about my burns, and for the first time in my life, I revealed the entire truth about my family. I couldn't tell you what I did next in this short video. The complete tale is on the channel, which you can find at the link below. I was still in the hospital when I decided to file charges. To be honest, I was afraid when the social worker assisted me in filing a police report. My hands were so shaky that I could scarcely complete the document. Officer Ramirez, an elderly man, took my testimony and kept looking at me with sorrowful eyes, as if he'd seen something like this before. "You're doing the right thing," he said as I recounted the years of abuse. "I'm not going to lie, I almost backed out 50 times during the chat. There's a strange shame associated with reporting your own parents, even if they've physically burned your face off with illegal skin bleach." Carlos was with me the entire time. He held my hand throughout the questioning and gave me genuine food because hospital food is just garbage. The nurses continued to call him my husband, and neither of us corrected them. It felt good, like a glimpse into a future in which I had a real family who cared about me. My phone began filling up with texts from my parents and sister. I eventually turned it off since reading them was raising my blood pressure, which the doctor warned was bad for my rehabilitation. My mother alternated between threatening and begging me to come home. My father texted me extensive lines about family devotion and how I was disrespecting my heritage by acting like this. The irony of his discussing heritage while practically attempting to erase it off my flesh was not lost on me. My sister Seraphine sent the worst messages. She texted, "They are going to take me away if you do this. Please, Aurora. I need these. I'm not sure how to live any other way." That one struck me hard. I understood exactly what she meant. When your entire identity revolves around pleasing others, the prospect of losing that structure is terrifying. I was freed after 3 days. My face was still wrapped, and I resembled a mummy from a low-budget horror film. The doctor informed me that I would require follow-up appointments for the next 3 months to ensure that the skin grafts were healing properly. They also handed me this special cream, which cost more than my monthly rent. Thank God Carlos's insurance covered most of it. We headed straight to Carlos's apartment. I couldn't bear coming back to my house knowing my folks might be there. Carlos lived in a tiny one-bedroom near college, with mismatched furnishings and a kitchen barely wide enough to turn around in, but it felt safer than anywhere else I'd lived. My first night away from the hospital, I had a complete collapse. I'm talking about nasty crying, snot all over the place. Carlos simply embraced me and let me express myself fully. I kept saying how I should have done something sooner, how I should have protected Seraphine, and how I might have been overreacting. Carlos simply listened, wiping away my tears gently to avoid the bandages. You know what the craziest part is? I asked him at 3 a.m., when we were both still up. A part of me still wants them to love me. How messed up is that? The next morning, I awoke to a knock at the door. Carlos went to check while I hid in my bedroom, scared it could be my parents. It was not them. It was Officer Ramirez and another officer I had never met before. We've spoken with your parents, Ramirez remarked when I eventually came out. They're claiming it was all a misunderstanding, that you had an allergic reaction to a normal beauty product. I simply stared at him. Of course they'd say that. For years they've used excuses like this to cover up their cruelty. Officer Chen, the new officer, inquired as to whether I had any evidence of previous mistreatment. Did I have photos of the slap marks? Have I reported it before? Did I have the box for the product they used on me? I did not have any of that. Who photographs the cruelty they experienced as children? Who saves the empty bottles of the substances that harm them? I began to worry that they would not believe me, and that my parents would continue to get away with it as they did in the past. Then Carlos said up. The hospital has the chemical analysis of what was on her face. That should prove it wasn't a normal beauty product. Officer Chen nodded and made a note. We'll get that report. In the meantime, we've issued a temporary restraining order. Your parents can't contact you or come near you. After they departed, I checked my phone again. 17 missed calls from my mother, 12 from my father, and 23 from Seraphine, plus a slew of texts. The most recent one from Seraphine felt my stomach plummet. They believe you're mentally unstable and have always made up things to get attention. They have photographs of you appearing joyful at family gatherings to prove it. I showed Carlos the message. They're going to twist everything, I told them. They'll make it look like I'm the crazy one. Carlos suggested I go out to anyone who may have seen the abuse over time. My thoughts immediately turned to my old neighbor, Mrs. Patel, who would let me hide in her apartment when things got nasty at home. There was also my high school counselor, Mr. Thompson, who observed the makeup I wore to cover bruises but didn't press me when I made up an excuse about falling. I spent the next few days making calls and attempting to recuperate. Most folks remembered something vague about my family, but nothing precise enough to help. Mrs. Patel went to Arizona. Mr. Thompson vaguely remembered being concerned, but had no documentation. I was about to give up hope when I received a text message from an unfamiliar number. This is Jasmine, from college. Carlos gave me your number. I have photos from freshman year when you still had the chemical burns on your neck from home. Please let me know if they are willing to help. I had completely forgotten about those photos. Jasmine took them at a dorm party after my makeup had rubbed off. I was humiliated at the time and urged her to delete them. However, she never did. I quickly called her, and she agreed to send them over. Meanwhile, Carlos was a total rock star. He altered his work schedule to drive me to doctor visits, prepared proper meals instead of the ramen I'd been eating, and never complained about the fact that my belongings were now scattered across his little apartment. One night, I discovered him researching skincare for chemical burn recovery when he thought I was sleeping. About a week after filing the report, I received a call from a woman named Tiffany, who identified herself as a victim advocate from the district attorney's office. She stated that they were considering filing charges against my parents but wanted more information. We have the hospital records and the chemical analysis, she told me. The substance on your face contained hydroquinone at levels far exceeding legal limits, plus mercury compounds that are banned in cosmetics in the US. I was not surprised. My parents had always sought out the most powerful, harmful products, believing that they were more effective. What startled me was Tiffany's comment. We also have a statement from your sister. My heart has stopped. Seraphine made a statement against our parents? There was a pause in the line. Not exactly. She's supporting their version of events. Says you've always been jealous of her relationship with your parents and that you're making up the abuse for attention. I hung up the phone.